I guess I have something to learn about old wool yarn. I have no idea how old this yarn is. It simply says rug wool, 100% wool, etc., made in USA. I know it's got some age on it, but I did not realize that rug wool was pre-shrunk. So when it went through my washer and dryer, it did not shrink. Not a problem. It's just slightly under 15 inches and slightly about 9 inches. It did not shrink like I expected it to, only slightly. But I'm still going to turn it into a purse. I still like it. I'm going to finish it. What I did was I found some fabric that I thought would look nice as the lining. I like light colored linings so I can see what's inside my purse. I hate the ones you buy that are black on the inside. That's horrible. I want a couple of pockets. I want a zippered pocket on the inside, about like that, that will hold a little bit of this and that I don't want to be loose inside of here. I want another pocket on the other side that will hold my rescue inhaler. I have asthma and I have to watch it. So I want another little zippered pocket on the other side, okay? And it'll be about the same, about like that. And then beside it, I want one for my cell phone. Now, my cell phone is a long skinny thing, and I want to be able to reach in and grab my cell phone without reaching into the pocket. So I'll finish this off. Now, what do I need to do? I need to put zippers on, 2 of these. I need to finish the edges because I don't want the insides of my pockets to ravel. The fabric that I found for the bottom, or I mean the base inside lining, I don't need to finish those edges because they'll be completely hidden. I just don't want the pockets, when I turn them like this, to get all ravelly on the inside. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll put zippers on these pockets. The edges are all serged, and I'm going to show you how I make my cell phone pocket. Here's my cell phone. Make sure that when I tuck it in around the edges, I'll still have plenty of room to put my phone in. It's easy to make these too small. Anyway, we're going to bend it this way, and then we're going to stitch here and here and turn it. Now we're going to push those points out like that. We're going to finish this off. We're going to turn the edges before we pin it on. It's just easier that way. We're going to sew our flap down. We're going to go all the way around. It's just this little step makes it easier to put it in. You're not messing with pins and tucking, and it only takes a minute. Many years ago, I saw something that I read, and it says, let your machine do the work. So we're letting our machine do the work. A few more stitches, and this little job is done. You're not going to see the extra stitches on the other side. And what I just did there, what we need to do is we turn the opposing side up, or not the opposing, but the adjacent side up first, and then we roll our side that we're working on. So when we come here, that little turn is already made. we go. One pocket finished. Will it fit? By the way, I have a dark colored thread underneath here, just because I want it there. It'll give a little definition to my stitching. Here we go. I think it'll fit my phone snugly, but not too tight. Now, I need to prep some zippers. This is my long pocket, and the zipper I have is the wrong size. So what I need to do is I need to cut it off. And yes, you can cut these zippers off. It only needs to be about that long, okay? I'm going to turn a little bit under, and maybe about right there. So we're going to cut that. Now, I want to finish these edges because I'm going to set the zipper so that it attaches to the lining, and then it's like this. Okay, nothing fancy. Okay, but to do that, I'm going to have to finish the edges of the zipper. Oh my, and I've mislaid my little pieces of fabric. So what I do is I take a piece of scrap fabric and I fold it into, not thirds, but I fold the two edges into the middle and roll it like that. Now, I'm going to put it around my zipper edge that I cut, and I am going to pin it on both sides. Now, if my zipper is long enough, and this one is in fact long enough, I'm going to bring the other end and I'm going to trim it a little bit because I want it nice and even. I want it to fit up evenly in there. And I found that you need to unzip this a little bit to get it to fit evenly. Like this. Put one side in. Make sure it hits the fold and is straight. Put the other side in. Make sure it hits the fold and you snug up against the other part because you want it to close neatly. And if in doubt, zip it up a little bit. Is that going to be what you want? I think so. Now we're just going to stitch across this, and we're going to back stitch over this point and this point. Now notice we did not get the metal pieces in there. Be careful, don't get the metal pieces in. Very carefully back stitch over that coil. Oh, we need to move the slider out of the way so it doesn't catch it. Now, on this particular one, I'm going to turn those little edges under, so I want just a little bit to turn them under. And I'm going to trim it, leaving myself a little bit. Now, turning it under is kind of optional. This is not going to ravel. I could probably just clip it off even because I'm going to stitch it this way, all the way around. And I might trim it off like that. Now, here's my zipper. And there's my... What I want to do is I want this zipper in here. And to do that, I'm going to just simply sew it like this, and then I'm going to turn it and tack it down. Now, this is a small zipper. I probably get away with not even bothering to put my zipper foot on, and I think I'm going to do that. But I will have to move my slider out of the way. Okay, here we go. And now I'm going to top stitch it right here, like this. One little zipper ready to be stitched into a purse. Like the other one, I'm going to go around and pull these seams in so that I don't have to worry about them when I'm sewing it. All ready to sew in. Now, I'm going to finish the other pocket in the same way and be back. All right, here's my purse. And I cut 2 pieces of fabric. Giving myself about 1/4 of an inch on either side. Now, these are going to be inside, okay? And the inside is always smaller than the outside. And I gave myself a little bit down here, but I did not trim the top here because when I set that zipper in, I will gauge where that needs to be trimmed. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to decide where my bottom, like this, is going to be. And it looks like maybe it's going to be about right here. Okay? You got that? I'm going to go up about this much. Okay? I'm going to mark that by just simply folding it like this and creasing it across. Now, I know where I need to put my pouches. I mean my zippers. I made sure that the long zippered pouch was shorter than what it is across the bottom. Okay? Now, all I have to do is line that up. I could very carefully measure it, but I think I can eyeball it and get it pretty close. Okay, now I don't want it to set up too far because it'll interfere with my zipper at the top. And I think this is about right. Like that. That gives me a little bit of a seam and a little bit for the bottom. There we go. It's just a matter of making sure it's straight. And I picked a directional fabric with a very simple pattern to make sure that I get all these components in straight. All right, just pin it and sew it. If I wanted to, I could make this pooch out a little bit in the bottom by simply putting a little gather here on the edge, but I'm not going to do that. It's not necessary. It's just going to be a little pocket to catch those things that I don't want to drop down into the bottom of my purse and get all damaged, like maybe a letter or some sort of printed business that I'm going to town to take care of. I have no idea. Anyway, so I'm going to sew this around and be right back. I keep knocking my thread out of the needle. One pocket finished. Now we have 2 more to put on. Using this as the pattern, we're going to pull our other one out, and I'm going to mark it here so I know about where I need to start and stop my pockets. Okay. Going to line that up here. All right, we've got 2 pockets here. We've got one zippered and one, I think I'm going to put my inhaler over here, okay? And I'm going to put it a little, because these are shorter pockets, okay? I'm going to put them a little bit higher up. This one about here. I'm going to leave a little space between them. My cell phone pocket, when it slips in, I want it to be close to the bottom because I don't want it to interfere with the zipper at the top. So I'm going to put those about there, about there. I think I like that. All right, let's see how they look here. Looks good. Pin them on and sew them around. If you want to be real picky, you can decide which way your zippers pull. But as with most purses, there seems to be no rhyme nor reason of how they pull. So I'm not being particular about this one either. Just put that down a little bit farther to make sure it. Now, the cell phone pocket, I'm going to have to reinforce at the top because that's going to be a stress point. I'm going to sew these and be right back. Cell phone fits just fine. It will sit close to the bottom when it's in there, and I don't think it will interfere with anything at the top. Now, we will check that before we finish this off. Right now, what we need to do is put the two pieces together. Right sides facing, just like most things. Now, because we cut this off at the bottom and we're going to size the top, we want to make sure that the edges match. We kind of free cut this. We're going to give us our little seam here. Other side. We want to make sure it matches at the bottom. The top is not that critical. In fact, the pieces I cut aren't exactly the same width. All right, we've got our piece done. Now, we haven't boxed the corners yet. We're just going to check it to see how it fits and make any adjustments now. So I'm just going to slip it in. And open it up. Push it into the corners there. Okay, push it into the corners here. How are we doing? Oh, we're looking pretty good here. Got a little bit sticking out of the top. I think everything will be fine. Let's see how that cell phone's going to sit. Here's my top. Make sure it's all the way down. Yeah, it's all the way down. Cell phone. That's the only one I was really worried about, is the cell phone. Make sure it's going to clear the zipper. And I think it will. Okay, there's where the zipper is going to sit. It's going to clear the zipper. Okay, now what we need to do is box the corners. And we box the corners this way. We line our seams up. Open it up like that. Line our seams up, one going one way, the other one going the other way, and making sure that they meet in the middle. And I'm going to put a pin there. I've got one going that way and one going that way, and they crisscross, or whatever you want to say. I'm going to do that to the other side. One going one way, one going the other. And we'll cut. There we go. Now we're going to use a marker on this. We're going to look at the edge here of our purse, and we're going to make this match. Okay? So that when we box it, it fits this corner on the inside, and that looks pretty good. I'm going to put another pin here. Ouch. And one over here. And I think we got it boxed pretty well. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to freehand this. Right like that. Now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to make it the same size by simply lining them up and marking them. You know, I used to repair purses for people, and You would not believe some of the shortcuts they take in making purses, even the high-end purses. So now we're going to stitch those. Oh, I'm out of bobbin. Wonder where it ran out. Make sure I got it finished on all these edges. Yeah, I might have run out there. Don't know where it ran out. No, I didn't run out of bobbin. I've got black on the inside because I want to see where my stitches are going. And that is just simply not going to make a difference on this purse lining. Okay, I have the corners boxed, and I'm just going to trim this off. Now, my next job is to baste these corners down so that my purse lining stays in place. And to do that, I know this is really weird. I'm going to baste here like this. Just baste it a few stitches, enough to hold it in place. And then I'm going to come over to the other side, on the inside, mind you, and do the same thing. And that will hold my lining in place and keep it from slipping all over the place. Because this didn't felt, it's a little loose, and I just need to do something with that lining to make sure it stays in place. Now, I'll do that, and I'll be right back. I finished basting the corners into the inside of this purse, turned it right side out, and I fitted my zipper in. I noticed that up here where I had so many knots that I had to weave in, it had a tendency to turn over. Hopefully, when I fill it up with junk, that will disappear. I took my zipper and I pinned it in place. Now, this is really heavy. I don't really think I want to try to put that under my sewing machine's presser foot. I think I would have a great deal of difficulty with it and would fight it. And it probably would not be looking too good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a nice little neat back stitch with a heavy thread and attach this zipper here. I checked it to make sure it's what I wanted. I pinned it on the inside because this is so thick here where I put that extra chain stitch around it and where I bound it off, that it was hard to pin, so I just pinned it on the inside. That'll also make it easier for me, and I probably won't poke myself as many times as I stitch it on. Now, when I'm finished, okay, I just dropped my lining down there. When I'm finished, I will fit the lining to that zipper, mark it, cut the excess off, and then also hand stitch the lining in place. If you're not a fan of sewing by hand, you might want to reconsider making a knitted purse, especially a heavy one like this. I could sew it on the machine, but I'm just not going to. Anyway, I'm going to sew this down. Notice that when I put it on, I checked to make sure that it was going to come together correctly up here so that those match nicely. Or do they match nicely? They don't really match that well. But I want to make sure that the handle is correct when I close it. I want to make sure that it matches down here when it's closed. Here, let me close it for you. Okay. Oops. And you can see that it works out very nicely when it's closed. Anyway, I'm going to sew this on and I'll be back.